sermon seems like an opportune time to try and do this. So, in the event that we are not able to worship next week in person, or that we are prevented from worshiping in person for a number of weeks, you can continue to connect with us online. So here, how about this? Here, now the choir can look as well. So you can continue to connect with us online. Just go in your browser bar, type in hildaleparkchurch.org. You'll see this new tab up here, Sermons. And you can open the sermon page. After today, we will also have the bulletin materials available here as well for each week's sermon. And you simply click on them, and provided our Wi-Fi signal in here is strong enough, it will begin to play the sermon video from each week. So we have 2 weeks worth up there. We have many more that we can use. Or you can go to YouTube itself. Just search Hildale Park Presbyterian Church. The first thing that comes up will be our YouTube channel, and you can search the videos on there. Or those of you that have Facebook, that have been using Facebook, we will continue to stream live there. Starting next week, we will also be streaming live on YouTube as well. So we will have the option to do both, and we'll try to do both. Our newsletter, our weekly newsletter, will be uploaded here. So the weekly e-news will be here for people that want it. Also, if you would like to continue to support us online, or if you have decided that you would like to give online, instead of giving a traditional paper offering, now on our website you can go to online giving. Just click Give Now, enter your information. General offering is for the weekly plate collection. Special offering is for things like 1 great hour of sharing, and that's all there is to it. So I'm sorry if this is, this is kind of basic for some of you, but I just wanted everyone to know that we will still be trying to keep our church connected together during this time. And I also want to encourage you, germs are not spread over the phone, right? Some people may be entering a period of intense isolation during the coming days or weeks, so do check up on each other. Please call me. I'm happy to go grocery shopping for anyone that needs someone to go for them, or if you need someone to run other errands, not feeling well. I'm happy to do it. Rebecca is happy to do it. But let's try to work to take care of each other. But we will still be producing new sermons, even if I have to come here to film them without the congregation. There will still be new sermon material every week, and so on. So Glenn and I are working to try to figure out the whole video thing in the absence of the congregation and all. But we appreciate your patience as you bear with us. All right, thank you. Yes.
I mentioned that I would also like to try to add something.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry, Michael has something he'd like to say as well.
We're actually going to make the attempt to go down to Florida. We have the car packed, so we are going to go down to Florida. But one of the things we're packing is the keyboard, actually purchased by Hildale. And what I'd like to do, if in fact that there aren't services, I will either make audios or even videos of me singing some hymns and playing them on the keyboard. And we can also put these up too, so you have something else along with the sermons.
Thank you. Yeah, and I have to say that the response from churches in the last couple of days to everything that's happening, which is completely strange, right? They didn't talk to us about this in seminary. There's no manual for what we're supposed to do here when the whole world shuts down because of a virus. But here we are. But all kinds of churches have been helping one another to figure out different ways to meet and gather. Christian companies, One License, who provides some of the licensing for hymns so that you can put them on TV and stuff, have said for the next 15 days, and they'll extend it after that, anything you want to stream, record, all free. The license is all free for all of it. There are various Christian curriculum companies that have offered online Sunday school materials for kids for free, so I'm going to be sending those links out to the parents. So it's been great, and I hope that that same spirit of generosity continues in the community. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Gracious God, grant now that the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts might be pleasing and acceptable in your sight. O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Our new scripture lesson for today is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verses 43 to 48. Listen for God's word to you. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people are crowding and pressing against you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, these are certainly some interesting times that we are living in. My brother-in-law posted a live video of one of his shopping expeditions out back in Pennsylvania where he lives. He has 2 young children. He owns 2 businesses. My mother-in-law also lives with him. And he was out trying to get some supplies for the family. The stores were picked bare. The shelves were completely empty. The line from the checkout registers at Walmart stretched all the way back through the middle, almost to the electronics department, right? You know how their stores are laid out. And he was commenting on the various things that were missing, right? All the paper towels, all the toilet paper, all the hand sanitizer. A number of sharp-tongued commentators have asked whether or not people were washing their hands before this, right? Right? And if you buy a forklift pallet of toilet paper, right, 800 rolls, how long are you expecting this to last, you know? Maybe if you're using 8 rolls of toilet paper a week for yourself, you should have gone to the hospital before the coronavirus outbreak. My wife noticed that vitamins had been cleared off the shelf the other day. All the vitamin pills had been wiped out completely. Again, I have been privileged in my life, I think once, to finish a bottle of multivitamins before they expired. I don't know what people think they are going to do with all of those. Most of the people. I saw a story in the New York Times yesterday about a man who got himself into a terrible predicament. He had purchased some $15,000 worth of paper towels, Lysol wipes, hand sanitizer, and toilet paper. He had purchased it from Costco with the intent to resell it on Amazon. Amazon performed a sweeping crackdown of people selling items that were being driven up in price by the epidemic, or the fear of the epidemic. And his account was terminated. He had no way to sell them to a mass market, right? You're not going to be able to sell 6.5 tons of hand sanitizer on Craigslist in your local area. This story that we read this morning is about a miraculous healing of Jesus. And it has some strange similarities in it, I think, to the times that we're living in today. They didn't really know about germs the way that we do back in Jesus' day. I mean, maybe Jesus did, but certainly normal people without divine knowledge did not. But they did have the Jewish purity laws. Right? People that had persistent bleeding from a sore or a wound were not supposed to enter the temple courts, right? If you had a flow of blood, you were unclean until a number of days after that, when you had to present yourself to the priest. Show the priest that you were indeed healed, and because a certain amount of time had passed, you were then required to wash and you could re-enter the congregation of the people. It was an early form of quarantine meant to stop diseases from spreading among the community while they worshiped. But of course, some people would have sicknesses or injuries or wounds that would not heal, right? We have modern names for some of these diseases now, right? Some people with diabetes might have wounds that never heal. Common in the New Testament, people with leprosy, right? That was a disease that would make them perpetually unclean. People who had ulcers on arteries would be declared unclean. Anyone that had this kind of flow of blood, people that had been maimed in certain ways, these people were prohibited from approaching the temple courts by the Old Testament law. It is a strange question that Jesus asks in the crowd. Who touched me? Who touched me? Peter is incredulous. This time he thinks the tables have turned, right? Jesus has caught him out being foolish any number of times, but finally it seems like Jesus is the one that is asking a dumb question. You can almost hear it in the way that it's written, right? Master, look where we are. We got pit tickets to the Who concert here, right? Luke says they're almost being crushed because of the crowd. People are so close that they probably can't turn around very well. And then Jesus stops everything and says, who touched me? Who touched me? But Jesus was talking about something different. He was talking about what he calls an outflowing of power. When the woman reached out, though she was only able to take hold of the hem of Jesus' garment, she was healed. All the money that she had spent on doctors that Luke says were not able to cure her, all that had not gone so far as this one touch, this little bit of contact with Jesus had carried her. Jesus takes the time to pause, parts the crowd, And in the presence of all, she tells her story, how she had been unclean, how she had been quarantined, and how this one moment, this desperate reach of faith, this taking hold of the hem of the garment of Jesus, had made her well. Now, we can get into some dangerous interpretive territory here when we read this. There's a lot of people here today, right, in the flesh, sitting in the pews, standing at the pulpit, sitting behind the camera, up here in the chancel. None of those people here in the flesh are Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, things like snake handling are a part of Christian, or at least quasi-Christian tradition, right? The belief that if we just have faith, we don't need to be concerned about our well-being. God will take care of us no matter what. Something, something. Man sitting on his roof in a flood, 3 boats pass by and he drowns, right? Right, we know how that goes. I'm not saying that God doesn't or won't protect us. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have faith that God is watching over us. But I do think it is important for us to take prudent measures and to listen to the people that God has called, God has made their vocation to know about things like the spread of illnesses, about sickness and treatment, about the likelihood of an illness to explode, and so on and so forth within a population. Those people have bent the powers of their intellect, the strength of their hands, and their wills to trying to help and save people. And I don't think that we should take that for granted. Notice that the woman reached out in faith to Jesus to take hold of the hem of his robes. But she didn't avoid going to the doctors in the first place, right? She tried to pursue normal remedies first. And only afterwards, only after she had tried what was in her power, then she took the desperate chance. Maybe that's a bad model for faith. Maybe we should have faith behind and before. But I think it is a good model for prudence for all of us. So being that none of us is Jesus, and being that these strange times are the times that we find ourselves in, what can we do? Well, I'd like to return now to the story of that man and his garage literally stuffed to bursting with all of the products that he had hoarded. We may not be able to heal people supernaturally at will, but we certainly can hurt them powerfully with our touch if we want to. Things like greed and desperation have created artificial shortages where none actually exist. On the news, they were interviewing regional warehouse supervisors for Costco and Walmart. And both of these people said that the public has not even scratched the surface of the toilet paper supply that they have in reserve. They have tremendous quantities of it available. The shortage is being caused by us, right? How many people know someone who has gotten sick from the coronavirus versus someone who has been terribly inconvenienced at the store this week? Panic can lead to ugliness, which isn't just hurtful to the vulnerable and those that are ill-prepared. It's hurtful to everyone. What good does it do if you have 200 gallons of soap to wash your hands and nobody else that you come in contact with has any soap to wash theirs, right? What good does it do you if you have a mask to prevent the spread of an illness, and everyone around you has none and are spreading it at will? What good does it do us if there are populations of people where this disease is running rampant and who cannot receive treatment? What good does it do us if we allow things to blossom and grow into something ugly and fearful just because it's out of sight? There are ways to harm with our touch. There are ways to harm with our fear. While I don't think that God has called us to place our hope on supernatural intervention when we do foolish things and expose ourselves to illness and disease needlessly, I do trust the Bible when it says that God has not given us a spirit of fear. My brother-in-law, when he was walking the aisles, said that while people were gathering around the last rolls of paper towels, somebody coughed. He said people almost jumped out of their clothes. Right? 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 God has not given us a spirit of fear. We need to be smart. We need to be sensible. We need to protect those that do not have, those that have been ill prepared, and those who, because of physical conditions that they can't help, are more prone to getting sick and dying from something like this than the rest of us might be. But that doesn't mean that we need to be fearful as we do it. It doesn't mean that we need to cower. It doesn't mean that we need to shame. One of the things about uncleanness in the Old Testament is that it was often contagious. If someone had an issue of blood that couldn't be healed, and they came into contact with you, guess what? You were unclean just like they were, and had to go through the same waiting period, the same review by the priest, and then you would be permitted to come back into the temple courts. Someone who came into contact with lepers would be in the same situation. Someone who came into contact with people that had sores would be in the same situation. Jesus could have been shocked and affronted. Here was this rabbi with his followers, traveling along, trying to minister to people. And this woman had the audacity to claw her way through the crowds and do something that would make him unclean. But that's not what happens in the story. Jesus does not give way to fear or to judgment, but turns to her and reveals the power of God that has worked through her. Christ was not made unclean, but by God's power through him, the woman was made clean. Her illness was taken away. She was restored as a great witness to the community. Let us love and care for one another in similar manner. Amen.